Do these images remind you of some of your own prints? You have prints that are lifting, warping, turning into spaghetti. Let's use some simple tips, go through 3 or 4 steps today on how to calibrate your printer, how to clean your printer, how to set up your printer. So follow along. Let's get to step 1. See right there, my greasy fingerprints. That is a problem. So I use what I call a 3-step super cleaning process. You need a lint-free cloth. These are blue shop towels, which are pretty much lint-free. You could use a rag, but you just want to make sure you don't leave little bits of lint on there. So what I always do is I wash the build plate in hot soapy water, dish soap, Dawn detergent. That gets the majority of it off, but it's not perfect by itself. So the next step, we use a little isopropyl alcohol. This is just Amazon Basics. You can get it at a grocery store or a drugstore. This is 99% IPA. I would recommend you not use anything lower than like a 91%. And even then, you might notice it leaves a residue. The lower this percentage, it tends to leave a white residue. So you don't want that. You want as high as you can get, above 90%, 91%. Put a little on a rag and I will wipe where those fingerprints were. My bed is a little warm right now, so it actually helps the alcohol evaporate really quick. So you should be able to see now those fingerprints are gone. Just lightly wipe the whole surface. I know that the rest of it's pretty clean. Now, a lot of people stop there, but I have spots on a print that would fail. The fix is good old Windex. This is the ammonia-free, lint-free cloth. Just wipe the entire build plate down. Make sure you're not leaving any lint on the build plate. So now my build plate is super clean. So now I'm pretty confident in the condition of my build plate and my printer. So let's go into the Anycubic slicer next and go over the calibration steps there. In the slicer, the first thing we want to do is we want to come down to a new build plate. Up here, I have created a printer profile called Bad Video Test. That's just so I don't mess up my profiles that I use. And I create profiles for each nozzle, each type of filament. So you can see these are user presets. You have to be logged into your Anycubic online account to be able to save these user presets, which is very important. You want to do that so that you can create custom profiles. So we've told it we're using a textured PEI plate, which is what the stock build plate is. If you're using a smooth plate or a cool plate, you want to check that. The process is going to be pretty much the same. There'll be a few differences. Then you want to come down to the build plate, right click on it and add a primitive. You want to add a cube. Then you want to go up here to this tool, the square with the 4 outward facing arrows. It's your scale tool. It's going to be that by default. It's going to have uniform scale. It comes in 42 millimeters or 42.6, 42.6. You can read. Take uniform scale off. I don't want to print the whole thing starting out because it's going to waste a lot of filament. I just want to do a smaller cube to get started. So I'm going to do 100 by 100 and 1 layer thick. This K3 Max has a 0.6 nozzle. Your machine probably has a 0.4, so your layer heights over here are going to be different. You can pick whichever one you want. Tallest, the biggest layer height, 0.42 millimeters. So since I want the bed to only test 1 layer, I'm gonna make it 40.42 millimeters. So you have to take the uniform scale off. So what that has done, it's created a 100 by 100 square, and it's only 1 layer of filament thick. As you dial it in, you can make this bigger. You can make it 400 by 400. I think the actual bed dimensions on this printer are 420 by 420, I think, aren't they? I'd have to Google it, but if you really wanted, when you're done, you could do the entire build plate just to see if you have any bad spots. One thing I have found is when you do this, you may have a spot here, say like a little area where it looks like the filament is tearing. It could be a spot on the build plate that's not level. It could be a high spot, could be a low spot, but if it's tearing, it's probably a high spot. But the other thing it can be is go back and I can't emphasize this enough, clean the build plate. Previously, I had only been washing the build plate with soap and then cleaning it with isopropyl alcohol. I got kind of frustrated. That's when I went and grabbed the Windex and cleaned the build plate with Windex, and boom, it fixed it. On your initial setup, do 100 by 100 by 0.42 or whatever layer height you want to choose. Then you go into your Anycubic printer profile, click on the pencil. That brings up this screen. Right here, is our Z offset. So you can see this is the last one I did that looked like a really good test, like a smooth sheet of paper. It's negative 0.002. And let me start with a word of caution, warning, danger, Will Robinson. If you lower this too far negative, the machine doesn't know, doesn't care. It's going to do what you ask, and what you're going to ask if you make this number too negative, and it would actually cause the nozzle to hit the print bed and scratch it. Again, this is your caution. I'm not responsible, and I can't even tell you that 0.002 is safe for your machine. I can't even say with 100% certainty that 0 is safe for your machine. You just have to go in very small increments. Whatever this is, if it's not been changed, it probably will start at 0. So we will put this at 0. We'll click on the little disc. You can name it. So this is where I gave it the name Bad Video Test, saving it as a user preset. Then click OK, and then close. So now we don't want to change any setting. We'll slice the plate. You see this doesn't take very long, 6 minutes, 7 seconds. We get our result. The result is the first image. Do you see those waves, those lines? There you go. See those lines across there like that? The Z offset is too low. So if we look at it like this, we're looking edge on to the print bed while it's printing. My finger's the nozzle. The nozzle is mashed down into the print bed, and it's dragging the filament. This isn't super terrible, but it's dragging the filament, mashing it down together. It has no room to go. When it hits the print bed, it squishes out. So we would go back into here. And so we'd want to raise it up, and you probably want to raise it up like 0.002 at a time, or lower at 0.002 at a time. We could raise it up to 0.004, save it, get out, slice again, print again, repeat the process. Now, if it's like the last image I showed when I showed my build plate, where it's all stringy, you've got gaps where the filament is not touching each other, not sticking together, you can pull the you can pull the layer lines apart. That is where you would go back in here, click on the pencil, and that's where you'd start to lower it. The next example is pretty obvious. This is what happens when your Z offset is too high. Using our squishing toothpaste analogy, the filament is not even being squished down enough to connect to the row next to it, because it's laying. This is the way the printer lays down the filament in line, so the line is not being squished into the line next to it hard enough to attach. It comes apart. This is an extreme example, but you can see what happens. And once you get past 0, so you'd put in negative 0.00, maybe 1 or 2. I would encourage you not to go a lot negative at a time, going baby steps. When you get it as good as you can, maybe try like a 0.002, like in my case was really good. I did do another one at negative 0.003 just to make sure it's not better. It looked basically the same to me, so I didn't want to go any more negative, have any chance of hitting the build plate with the nozzle and damaging either one, so I kept it at 0.002. So this is where you do, I won't even say trial and error, it's trial and learn. So you print one, you learn what the Z offset is and what it's doing. If you're moving it down in the negative direction, again, I can't emphasize enough, don't go too far negative. You will damage your printer. But when you have success, maybe go 0.001 lower, 0.001 higher, find that sweet spot, lock it in, save it. Then we have our Goldilocks zone. This is where I went back in, changed the Z offset, and just like the Goldilocks and the Three Bears, the first one, the Z offset was too low. The second one, the Z offset was too high, and you can see the layer lines. You should be able to see them, but it's not textured. It's not like a potato chip with ridges. It's very smooth. A lot of people describe this as printing plastic sheets of paper. But I would encourage you to get the best success out of your printer to do calibrations. I'm going to do a video on calibrating the filament. because this slicer is based on Orca. There is a great wiki online in Orca of this the calibration tab of what all of these things do, how to use them, how to adjust, and then how to create your own custom profiles. And I encourage you to learn how to calibrate your printer. Stay tuned in future videos. I will go over some of these calibrations for both the printer and the filament, because in the end, the time you spend here creates that successful foundation for your prints, and it leads to less frustration and better prints. You know, you don't want to wake up to a mess of angel hair pasta inside your printer because the print peeled up from the bed, came loose. You're going to have failed prints. That's just a fact of life if you're going to 3D print. But we want to minimize those. And by taking the time to do these calibrations, I feel confident that you can increase your successful prints and your print quality. Now our third step, kind of the last fine tune in this, is slow down. If you don't get a good first layer print, you're not going to get a good print. So what difference does it make if you go super fast? One other setting to look at, you can fine tune once you get your Z offset really good, is go into the speed. The first thing you see, and usually the first thing that the software has is kind of important because they want to put it where you see it first, is your first layer speed. So you can see it's 40 millimeters per second and the infill is 50 millimeters per second. If you're having issues where your first layer detaches from the bed, even though you've got a good first layer Z offset, slow it down. On PETG, because it's notoriously finicky about sticking to the bed, I believe I typically will slow this down to 25 or 30 and slow this down to 30 or 40. It does not make a tremendous amount of difference on your print speed. So we'll slow down our first layer print speed, which helps the filament stick and kind of squish into the build plate and stick. Because again, if it doesn't stick, your print's going to pop up, it's going to warp, it's going to fail. Yes, this does take time. Yes, this is time you're not printing. But if you print something that's going to take a day, and 18 hours into it, it becomes detached from the print bed, and you get a wad of angel hair pasta, or worse, the print head starts dragging it around until it jams it into the side of the printer and it jams your printer up. Did you really save any time by not taking these extra steps? Okay, so now we've slowed down the first layer print speed just to ensure that our filament sticks to the print bed. We get a good result. We get a good anchor to our print. Now we want to look at the print temperature. So now we're going to go into the filament profile because that's where those items are. So if you look here, your print temperature, you have a first layer. Let's see, there we go. First layer and other layers. And this is the stock filament profile. Then you have your build plate temperatures. See down here? But this is the stock profile. This is why I customized the profile. So here's the one I actually normally would use to print with, the one that I've saved a user preset. So if we look in here, I'm surprised. I normally have this about 5 degrees hotter, which I'm going to save that. So this is the customized profile that I've created. So when we open it up, we're here, we scroll down, we'll see our print temperatures. The first layer, which is here, versus other layers. You want your first layer just a little bit hotter. That helps it stick together, helps it stick to the print bed. And then down below, you have your build plate temperatures. As you can see, for the textured PEI, it's 75 and 70. Same reason that the build plate is a little bit hotter on the first one. It helps the filament. It softens it a little more, helps it kind of conform to the little nooks and crannies, peaks and valleys on your textured build plate. That's why on a smooth plate, it's not quite as pronounced, and I haven't really tuned this for a smooth plate. So these two things are crucial. You want your first layer temperature for the print and your first layer temperature for the build plate to be just a little bit hotter than the rest. And I also run my build plates a lot hotter than the filament profile that Anycubic Supplies calls for. Again, it just helps the filament stick to the build plate, adhere to the build plate, not come loose. One word of warning is when the print finishes,
especially on PLA running this warm. If like the second the printer stops and you go to peel your thing off the print bed, there's a chance that at this temperature the filament is soft and you can then warp it. Just be careful if you're running your build plate this warm to wait before you peel your print off. So if we could take control of the physical bed cleanliness, dial in the Z offset, we override or customize some of our slicer settings, we eliminate guesswork and print failures, we can stop throwing money away on these spaghetti angel hair pasta failures and reduce the level of frustration and start enjoying the making process. If your printer's giving you a hard time right now, or if any of these steps help clear up an issue that you're having, leave a comment below. By taking control of your physical bed cleanliness, dialing in the Z offset, and then let's set some slicer overrides and custom profiles, we'll eliminate guesswork. We're going to stop throwing money away on the spaghetti failures and start enjoying the 3D printing process.
If you find the information in this video useful in your 3D print journey, leave a comment down below. Let's start a community discussion. Also, over this shoulder, maybe this shoulder, when I edit it, I'll figure out where it goes. I'll leave a link to another video of hopefully some more good tips and tricks on how to make successful prints and lower your frustration level with the Anycubic or any 3D printer in general, because it can be very frustrating to be 8 hours, 20 hours, 25 hours into a print, have it peel off the bed plate and crash and ruin everything, maybe even damage the printer. We don't want that. Thank you. Hit the like button and subscribe, and I'm out.